Please take their seats. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the All India Artisans and Craft Workers Welfare Association, ICA, I, Nancy Negi, extend a warm welcome to our esteemed panelists, distinguished guests, and participants. Thank you for all joining today for this panel discussion on relevance of traceability in the craft sector. For over 2 decades, ICA has worked to strengthen India's craft sectors for promoting sustainable livelihoods, preserving heritage crafts, and developing market-driven value chains. Through initiatives like Craftmark, enterprise support, and strategic advocacy, ICA collaborates with artisans, enterprises, and government partners to build an inclusive ecosystem. With evolving consumers' expectations, traceability has become vital for assuring transparency, authenticity, and ethical sourcing across craft value chains. Today, our expert panel will examine the opportunities, challenges, and roadmaps for integrating traceability into the sector. We express our sincere gratitude to our distinguished speakers and guests for being part of this vital conversation. To commence today's discussion, it is my honor to invite our esteemed panelists on the stage. Dr. Madhura Datta, I would request you to please. Mr. Gaurav Majumdar, Mr. Bijan Paul, Ms. Sujata Goswami, Ms. Nandita Sharma, and Mr. Yogesh Chaudhary. A warm round of applause for our panel. With this, we can start the session. Before this, Dr. Madhura ji, I would request you to please introduce briefly our panelists. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here to listen to this panel. My name is Madhura Datta. I have been working in the sector of crafts, culture, and development for the past 26 years. And we are really at a juncture where so many things are happening all at the same time in terms of technology, in terms of the social, political, economic changes that are happening. So it is really a time when there is so much of uncertainty, at the same time so much of opportunity around. And I'm happy to be here and honored to be chairing this panel on relevance of traceability in the handicraft sector. Now, traceability is something that is a complex topic, but at the same time, it is basically shaping the future course that the handicraft sector is taking, or the handloom sector or the textile sector is taking. So it is becoming more and more important to understand how this works. Now, what traceability brings in as a benefit is the recognition, the fair business, the ethical returns, the identity of the artists, and blocking the faking of products. All these benefits we are aware of, we know. Whoever are working in this sector, we are aware of this, and why traceability is important is something that is relatively easier for us to understand and discuss. What we are really trying, or what we would really try to do here today, is to look at how we do it. What is exactly the way in which people are working on traceability, what are the tools and technology that exist, how businesses are using those tools and technology, and how they are getting benefited, or how they are facing challenges, whether these can be applicable for the actual grassroots artisan clusters in some way, and how this can take a future course. So India has actually been working in this field for a very long time. If we really look at the essence of traceability, It started 20 years ago, actually, in 2006 with the handloom mark, which gave weavers a unique registration number. It started there. In 2015, the India Handloom brand came in, which further introduced yarn testing, dye testing, and also tracking the weaver identification. We have a pioneer here from the handloom industry who have been a part of actually designing the India Handloom brand, so we will come to that. So thank you, Mr. Paul, for being with us today. So after the India Handloom brand, we had a year, after 1 year of that, we had the e-Dhaga app. So that came up so that there could be digitization of the raw supply of yarn that was coming from the mills directly to the cooperatives. Recently, we have seen the QR codes woven right into the fabric. And in 2023, IoT smart looms came in that use sensors to track the actual movement of looms. So evolution has happened in this sector to some extent. And right now, the government is building its own national blockchain framework. But that national blockchain framework is mainly being used for e-governance and for public services, and not so much for this industry. But going forward, probably it would also contribute and support this industry in the long run. And meanwhile, we also know that in the international market, especially in the European market, there is the regulation by EU that you have to have the digital product passport for selling textiles and handlooms to the EU markets. Now, for a small Indian craft business, setting this up or using this kind of technology can cost quite a lot. So estimated, I would say, and there are experts and specialists with us, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it is estimated between 150 euro to about 15,000 euro, which means we are talking about 14,000 rupees per year to almost 14 lakhs rupees per year, depending on the complexity that you choose, the levels of services that you choose, the kinds of technology that you choose. So it is very complex in many ways to choose for business. Now, to help our artisans navigate this, there are private organizations like Kosha.ai. We have Vijaya with us today who will talk about Kosha.ai, and we have other experts who are using Kosha.ai in their ways, so we will hear both sides. And so these kinds of digital tools have developed and are being used, which are being used in the craft industry, in the textile industry. And it is really mind-boggling to just think of how, at what level technology has gone to be able to validate, to actually verify the very ancient, the very specialized, the extremely diversified handloom and crafts industries that we have in our country. And an hour probably is very short to discuss all that, but we are lucky that we have a very, very experienced and a fantastic panel of experts. So we'll start the conversation, and I will just quickly introduce each of our panelists here to you first. And then the structure will be, I will be asking them questions, and they will have about 8 minutes to respond. And after that, we will open for question answer. So first, I would like to introduce Mr. Bijon Paul is a distinguished textile expert and national award-winning handloom professional with 4 decades of experience, retiring as Zonal Director of the Weavers Service Center, Ministry of Textiles. He played a pivotal role in establishing the India Handloom brand, implementing cluster programs, and documenting tribal textiles. Currently, he serves as a consultant for Tanera, contributing to initiatives like Weaver Shala and quality standardization for hand-woven textiles. Thank you, Mr. Paul, for being here. Would like to introduce Sujata. Ms. Sujata Goswami is the Executive Director of Sharboshanti Ayog and a senior development professional with over 23 years of experience in sustainable livelihoods, fair trade, responsible sourcing, and ethical value chains. A former leader at Sasha and recipient of President's Alumnus Award from the Entrepreneurship Development Institute of India, she specializes in strengthening grassroots artisan and women-led enterprises. She currently serves as the executive body of Fair Trade Forum India and previously contributed to the World Fair Trade Organization's Gender Working Group. Thank you, Sujata, for being here. Mr. Yogesh Chaudhary has been instrumental in transforming Jaipur rugs into a global craft brand spanning over 100 countries, driving both design excellence and artisan empowerment. Joining the family business at 19, he led the company to win the prestigious El Deco International Design Award in 2025 for floor covering. Recognized in Fortune India's 40 Under 40, he is a leading voice in blending traditional Indian weaving with global luxury. Welcome, Yogesh. We have Mr. Vijaya Kumar Krishnappa. He is the co-founder of Kosha.ai, a deep tech company pioneering AI-powered textile verification and digital product passports to build transparent, circular supply chains. Leveraging over a decade of prior in management, retail, and supply chain consulting experience at Technopark and IMAX, he bridges cutting-edge tech innovation with business strategy in the textile industry. He is now a leading voice in driving this industry's sustainability through advanced digital traceability systems. Welcome, Vijaya. We have Gaurav Majumdar with us. He heads the Skill Development and Livelihood vertical at HCL Foundation, leading artisan empowerment, enterprise development, digital inclusion, and sustainable income initiatives. He has played a key role in advancing My eHeart, an innovative digital marketplace connecting traditional weavers and craftspeople directly to consumers. Leveraging strong expertise in CSR and ecosystem partnerships, he collaborates across sectors to build scalable livelihood models. Thank you, Gaurav, for joining us. And finally, we have Ms. Nandita Sharma. She leads the social sector vertical at the Open Network for Digital Commerce, ONDC, driving digital market access for artisans, weavers, farmers, and producer organizations. With over 14 years of experience spanning government, consulting, and development sectors, she has worked in the areas for technology for development, policy, and inclusive ecosystems. Her career includes leadership roles at EY, PwC, World Bank, Barefoot College, and the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. She specializes in building multi-stakeholder partnerships to create technology-enabled development models. So welcome again to all the panelists here. And you can see that we have a very, very diverse panel coming from the industry, from the technology background, from e-commerce, from CSR. So I hope to have a fruitful discussion here. So I would like to start with my first question to Mr. Paul, Mr. B.B. Paul. So Mr. Paul, you played a pivotal role in formulating the India Handloom brand, as we said, and you now work as a major retail consultant for Taneira. Now, from your experience, how do we leverage traceability to ensure that a premium price paid by a consumer for an authentic handloom actually trickles down to the weaver in the economy and not get distributed along the value chain again? And how do you see or position traceability in the whole policy ecosystem?
It's a very difficult question. Traceability, of course, it is very important. And we have tried this thing not from India Handloom Mark. It was from 1985. There's an act, Handloom Reservation Act. You know, there's a lot of onslaught by the machine-made products. The handloom was just, or handcrafted things were just getting killed, I can tell you, by those machines. So there are 22 items those days. Now it has been reduced to 11. These are exclusively reserved for handlooms, hand weaving. Not 11 like saris and dhotis, which are very commonly consumed by our local persons in the country. Not all saris. If we just give an example, handloom can make 100% cotton, 100% silk, 100% silk and cotton blend. But powerloom also allowed to make such saris up to 45% natural fibers. If it is more than that, then they cannot make. So that kind of guidelines are already there for making the traceability. Simply handloom mark. If you put a handloom mark with all those logos, etc., it will be, you can scan that QR code, it will be handmade. Similarly, India handloom brand. Other two were not really very much about the quality and the material. If it is handloom mark, it may be cotton, it may be silk, or different kind of materials also. But when handloom brand came, it gives you the total quality or the traceability is a handloom, 100% hand woven, all natural fibers, eco-friendly dyes, no contaminated dyes, and social, there is no child labor, there is social accountability, all those things are standardized. But again, if you go by the facts and figures of our handloom census, last handloom census was 2019 and 20. Why, in spite of such kind of regulations or even standardizations or traceability tools, why handloom is still going down, or any handicraft is going down? You know, if we go by the last 4 census, numbers has gone down, it's decreasing. There are many reasons, but very important thing I want to tell, because of this unlevel competition, handmade and machine made, handloom weavers are not getting fair wages. I give you an example. A handloom weaver can make 1 sari a day if he is very efficient, but same machine or power loom, ordinary power loom can make 4. So the weaver who was getting 200 rupees a sari or 500 rupees a sari, the same 500 rupees is divided into 4 saris, so it is just 125. So when that owner is saying I can get a sari 125, why should I go for 500? So he started bargaining with that particular handloom weaver. He come down, up 500, don't take 500, take 300, take 200. Like that, there is a trend for giving low wages to the handloom weavers. It has happened in many such clusters. Very recently, you can see what is happening in Fulia. All subtle looms are getting there. You are getting jamdani in subtle looms, cut work kind of thing. So this is really, here the traceability is there. There are the regulations. But that wages, this kind of undue competition really making a different kind of impact on those handloom weavers. Now, very recently, about 10 years back, many corporates have come. They have taken this particular sector into their business, into their commercial activities. So I was in Tanira, Tata company. HCL, Mr. Gaurav is also here. The Birla has also come into. Relevance has come into. So we have got good hope, and we trust that in Tanira we have got very open costing. You know, we tell the weavers, you put all your wages, not only simply the weaving, you put all your wages, and right from the winding, sizing, warping, beaming, drafting, denting, and there's a gap in between changeover. One warp is over, new warp, maybe 2 days or 1 day. You put that also into consideration and make your costing and tell us that we are going to pay you. So if this kind of things happen, then I feel there is, I mean, with the tools, plus tool alone cannot help you. The tools, all those, whether handloom mark or handloom act or India handloom brand alone cannot do that. This is one. Then if you go the statistics, I mean, only we have got 6 or 7% handloom weavers out of 35 lakhs. I've got sufficient time, no? 35 lakhs handloom weavers last census. Only 6% or 7% handloom weavers are under cooperative fold, primary cooperative societies fold. There is no problem because they have got a good system of working. They have the costing, etc. They know, their member know what is their wages, and there is being really paid in toto. So there is not a problem. But if you see other weavers, about 70% are independent weavers. There is the problem. And about 27% or 20 to 27% are the master weavers. Master weavers still, I tell you, master weavers not, I tell you, the middleman. There's the definition is many times it is misnamed or it is not correctly explained. Master weavers are those who are really from the weaver's family. He had earlier 1 loom or 2 looms. Now he has grown. He has got 10 looms. He is master weaver. Not the person who is not a weaver but he is just trading. He is not the master weaver. So that kind of persons are also doing justice. But those 70% who are really outside all such kind of organized structure, there the problem arises. People really do not pay fairly to them. Simply because the people are getting, in the name of hand woven fabric, they are getting cheaper fabric, machine woven. If all the products have their handloom mark or handloom brand level, the customers are ready to pay. They are not bargaining with the price. But only the thing that because of not knowing the origin of the product, origin of the material, nowadays we are getting all organic cotton, BCI cotton. So unless you have got that leveling of those GOTS or other ecotex, so people are not going to pay you. So those things has to be really put up. Third one, if you see the education level or the literacy rate, I have got some figures. You'll be surprised to know that 23% of 35 lakh weavers have never gone to school. So how they can really fight for their fair wages? They have no idea at all. They don't know. Whatever, the master weaver tells, because he has nothing to do. Master weaver gives the yarn and take back the material or the sari, whatever, and pay the wages, not even in one go. You take 10 rupees, 100 rupees today, take 500 rupees the other day. So it is all going on. They don't have the account closed. It's always open accounting kind of thing happens. Below primary, 14%. Primary, 18%. Middle standard, 21%. High school, 13%. Higher secondary, 7%. Graduate and over, only 4%. So how the artisans really know how much he has put, how much labor he has put, he has no idea about it. Whole family is attached to that. So proper costing is very essential. And you should know whether he is attached to the corporate or other. Nowadays, our parks coming up. My friend Ramanathan is here. Kanchipuram Silk Park, wonderfully working. It is very transparent there. All big people are working. All big, the stores are working. They got more than 100 looms, 200 looms or one person are running. There it is working. Such kind of arrangements, if it is done, it will be really helpful to the weavers to getting their wages. And finally, I tell you why it is decreasing. You see, the wages level is so low. It is so low. I'll talk about the handicrafts also. It is not very different from the handlooms. 67% weavers, they earn less than 5,000 rupees a month. 67%. So tell me who is going to weave for you? So they just give them the peanuts. They don't give the proper wages to them. There is really a big problem, and the traceability is really going to help them out. I'm very sure. And only 1% weavers earn 20,000 rupees a month. Only 1%. There's a huge gap. There's a huge gap. Similarly, handicrafts, handlooms are still a little bit streamlined. Just shortly, streamlined. But handicrafts, there is no census report. There is no proper census. There is I think this time they have got one reports come out very recently. It was by, but there also they have covered 5 Institute of Human Development for Cloud Council of India. You might be knowing, very recently it was published. So they have taken the 5 states, Assam, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, UP and West Bengal, 5 districts in each state. They also notice less than 7,000 rupees a month the artisans are getting. The skilled artisans minimum wages is 7,000 somewhere, 9,000 somewhere. But in our case, it is 700 somewhere, 900 somewhere, but it is far less than the minimum wages. So I feel I have got really hope that such kind of intervention, the parks, the society is more around. Nowadays we have got a different department as society, ministry as a society. Earlier it was not there. So if they take proper step, I feel they will get it. And my request to all the workers, all the persons who are working for the handloom handicraft, they please be a little liberal and try to pay them good wages, fair wages. Thank you so much. I can just give you an example what we have done in Tanira.
So
If time
maybe we'll
permits,
come back to you. Yeah.
how we are doing that.
Because,
Ramanathan, I also asked Mr. Ramanathan to, I think he has gone out, to just speak, he can also speak something on it.
We can
how
come
are
back
doing
to
it.
that.
Yeah.
Because
Thank
I
you so
think
much.
what you ended with is logically flowing into our next speaker. So I want to take that chance to actually go to Sujata. And because you're talking about transparency, you're talking about the ethical side of things, which should become a consideration for designing the technology and looking at how technology is getting applied, I would want to come to Sujata, and question to you is, globally, this whole ethical value chain thing has become an in thing. Everybody is talking about it. And as a result, there's a lot of greenwashing that is also happening in the market. Now, given your leadership in building transparent supply chains, what are the absolute non-negotiables that a brand or an artisan collective must trace and disclose to ensure ethical business?
Yeah, thank you.
I think Mr. Paul already started with a non-negotiable, and let's go over to listen to Sujata more on the complexity of the supply and the value chain. Yeah.
So when we hear about the word traceability, what comes to our mind is documentation, compliances, digital tools, QR codes, etc. But I'll frame traceability in a little different manner. For me, traceability is not primarily a technical compliance requirement. It is a way of building trust across the supply chain. And it is not an end in itself. It is not the destination, but it is a way to reach to something much more bigger. That is transparency, accountability, fair compensation, fair partnerships, informed consumer choices, and ultimately better opportunities for the artisan sector, the artisans. If traceability only means mere ticking off some regulatory checkboxes, I think traceability has not served its purpose. If it means that every actor in the value chain or every stakeholder gets their due, I think that's when traceability has served its purpose. So I'll talk about 5 non-negotiables, which I've noted, and I'll talk about 2 in a bit more detail because the other 3 people talk very often. The first is artisan identity and origin. Every handcrafted product, you know, carries knowledge, skills, cultural heritage of the person who makes it. But while the product travels across markets, the identity of the maker doesn't travel equally. So I think one of the responsibility of traceability is to provide that kind of identity, dignity, and visibility to the maker by asking some simple yet powerful questions like who made the product, where it has come from, what cultural heritage, traditional knowledge, or community does it represent. I think that storytelling merely does not end with traceability. I think traceability should talk about more about giving artisan their identity, the dignity of in making that product. I think the second non-negotiable will be fairness across the value chain. While through traceability, we can track how the product has traveled across marketplace, but we are unable to, track how much of the value has been distributed in that value chain through traceability. And that is where the role of traceability becomes very important, is to build that trust, both with the producer and the consumer, whether the value that the consumer is giving for that product actually is distributed fairly, I'm not saying equally, but fairly across the value chain. The third non-negotiable is the traceability of materials and production processes. I will not deal with that because a lot of speakers will talk about that, but that is equally important because more and more consumers are looking for very concrete evidence of where the raw materials are coming from, how they are whether they are sustainably sourced, and whether the production processes across the value chain is responsible, not only at one location. The fourth most important non-negotiable I will give a little more time is authenticity of impact and sustainability claims. Every organization we hear now is talking about sustainability, empowerment, and ethically sourced. But claims alone are no longer enough. Traceability should provide us enough evidence. It should provide us with enough evidence that when an organization is claiming about sustainability or ethically sourced, it should demonstrate their commitment to environmental and social concerns or compliances, which should be measurable, they should be able to demonstrate that. I think that is one of the non-negotiables. And the fifth non-negotiable is the long-term commitment to artisan livelihoods. So we should be careful that traceability does not end up in burdening the already vulnerable producers. It should create value for them, because as we hear that there is a growing demand for products which are responsibly produced and sustainably sourced, producers should be receiving their equal share, fair share of returns if that demand is growing. And that can only happen if the relationship between the maker, the producer, and the consumer is built on transparency and accountability. The producer should be able to trust the enterprises should be able to trust consumers, and the consumer should be able to trust and believe in that the commitment of sustainability are being honored. So I think to end it, I would like to end with one thought, that traceability should not be viewed as an end in itself. The objective is not to simply produce more documents or tick off more compliance regulations. The objectivity is to build trust. To build trust between the producer and the buyer, the enterprise and the consumer. If we keep people, especially artisans, at the center of any traceability system, compliance becomes more than a regulatory requirement. It becomes an enabler.
Yeah, thank you, Sujata. I think these are all values that we really, we always look at when we are working in this sector, but when it comes to actually interacting closely with the business and the industry and the market, these are the values that really probably need to be mainstreamed in a way that they are understood in the right context and in the right perspective. So, but then again, you have given me cues for the next speaker. Thank you. Because you talked about storytelling, and you talked about how storytelling is important and it doesn't stop at traceability, or traceability does not only define that, and that the whole process has to be an enabler. So that brings me to Yogesh. And my question to you is, in your experience in Jaipur rugs and where you have reached with your organization, the whole luxury market. So how do you connect a luxury consumer to, say, a specific artisan who spent months making their carpet or their rug? And how much of it is storytelling? Do you use traceability? How do you, if not actually a technology in essence, how do you build that, and how have you built that till now?
Right. I think the first most important thing for us was, we don't want to look at the artisans as bechara. They are very strong people, and they have amazing hands, and they're building something which is world class. And the first thing was, how do we tell the artisans that they're making something which is going in different parts of the world, and it's going to the best, most expensive homes of the world, right? So we did a lot of initiatives where we got the artisans. Actually, a lot of the artisans hadn't ever gone out of their homes or the villages. So we got them to Jaipur. We took them around the city We took them to where the carpet is finished. We got them to the showroom and showed them visuals of some of the homes where the product was going. Suddenly when we did this, these artisans suddenly got a sense of pride, and we continue to do that with all our new artisans. So we've done this for over thousands and thousands of artisans over the years. And then there's one initiative that I can talk about which is very, very relevant maybe to this question. We started an initiative called Man Chaha. So we gave creative freedom to our artisans to make whatever designs that they wanted to make. In this initiative, we don't give any design to the artisans, so we give them material and they can make whatever they want. Each piece is sold under the name that they give it. We tell the story behind what the artisan was thinking with each piece, and we tell the name of the artisan and the village where it comes from. And we've had such amazing stories where customers from different parts of the world have come. They bought a manchaha carpet, they go back to the village, meet the artisan, bring a gift for them, or send photos with, their children or their family sitting on the carpet and giving it back. So I think with traceability, it gives you power to influence both ends of the supply chain, right? Your customer and your artisan. And I think for us, that is the most important and relevant thing. And just from a technology perspective, we don't have anything very complex. We have an app called Tana Bana, so, warp and weft, which is a very simple app connected to our ERP, which is given to all our quality supervisors on ground. And also we have people called Bunkar Sakhis or Katwari Sakhis, who are women in the village, who sort of oversee a community. So their goal is not just that we want them to see quality, but their goal is that they are like the friend of the artisan. So if somebody is going through a bad divorce, let's say, how do the artisans help each other? If somebody has some issue in their family, how do they support each other and create a mindset, where they are still happy in whatever circumstances they are in. So, the Tana Bana app has really helped us because we can track back which artisan made what carpet and then put the stories and tell it to the consumer. And we took the Manchaha initiative also in the jails. So, we have inmates making these carpets, which we call the Freedom Manchaha. So I'll keep it short and yeah.
Thank you. This is beautiful, the Manchaha initiative, which is beautiful way of telling the story and attracting consumers. And I think of the first example that you gave is almost like a reverse traceability, right? Like actually the artisans coming back to see who they produced for and where it went, which becomes extremely important, we have seen, because they are creative people themselves. They are not laborers. So they really need to visualize what they are doing and just not fulfill orders. And I think that's a very, very powerful thing in doing that. Thank you, Yogesh. So now coming to our tech person, Vijaya. So from your work at Kosha.ai, and do introduce the application and how the technology works. So my question to you is specifically, how do you deploy a high-tech verification system practically at the grassroots level to map such a highly decentralized, fragmented craft supply chain that we have? And if you can also touch upon the cost part a little bit when you're saying that.
Yeah, sure. So I am Vijaya Krishnappa, and we have a startup called Kosha.ai. We primarily look at decentralized sectors, including handmade, where wherever the Western solutions cannot come in, because there are certain problems which are very specific to India. We are trying to deal with it. One of that is how we started our work with, say, even what Mr. Paul said. Today, the handloom, power loom market is, say, eating away into the handloom market. Okay, so it's kind of, why do handmade has to compete with the machine made, right? I think they both are entirely new, different markets. So our idea was that how do you give that identity to these products so that this, many of the places, so how, for example, Jaipur Rugs has built this brand, right? Not many artisans or societies are able to build the brand, and then once the brand is built, there is a perception is built, it's easy to sell. But unfortunately, maybe Thanera can do that. But not every artisans or cooperative societies cannot do it. That's where our thought was that, is there a role for technology and build the transparency and trust back into the ecosystem. That was what. So, and it was in fact driven by, there is an economist called George Akerlof who won Nobel Prize for his thesis, wherein he said that very similar to what is handloom, maybe I'll use he uses apples and lemons, but I'm using, and even very similar to the second-hand market, where if you don't have trust, like, when you go at the point of sales, somebody claims it is handmade, okay? Now, you're not sure. So, if he charges high price, you don't want to take a risk. As long as he's quoting some low-level price, you are okay to do it because, even if I lose, it doesn't matter. So, eventually what happens is, the good weavers, who are genuine handmade weavers, doing genuine work, will get out of the market. Like, it happened in Surajkund Mela. I went for a study, and there was this Gujarati weaver who was making this extra weft ikat, basically double ikat, and so one person came and asked, I'm sure she could have offered it that sari. So how much this sari costs? And he said, it's about 1,10,000 rupees. Okay, so it's a double ikat and it's made of pure silk. Now she touches and say that, ye to silk nahi dikh raha hai mujhe. Now the question is, how do that weaver convince him or her that this is genuine and it is worth that value? Then in the same, there was a Bangladeshi Jamdani shop. Okay, so I went and asked him, what is this sari? He said, pure silk Jamdani, sir, and the cost is 8,000 rupees. Okay, so we have a small device called Fiber Sense. If you place your fabric on it, it instantly tells you it is silk or cotton. I tested, it was 100% polyester. Now, and I could make out it's not extra weft. It was a simple power loom woven sari. And even if I had negotiated, he would have given it for 5,000, 4,000 rupees, still he is making profits. So now, this is where that identity, which maybe Jaipur Rugs has created with a brand name, that same thing can the industry have that identity. With that, we started experimenting, and lot of after failure, still failing, I would say. So the solutions have realized that it has to be simple. So for example, we made an IoT device which can say whether it, by sensing the motion, it can say handloom or power loom. And weaver weaves a simple QR code into the fabric itself. So it wasn't complicated, but that IoT has to be charged every day. Weaver, first day when we gave the charge, I think that was it. Nobody else charged. So we came out with a smaller device with a button cell, coin cell, which lasts for 6 months. And so a lot of this work wherein, it's very difficult when you go on the ground. It's important that how you can use technology to automate and make it as simple as possible. So that's one thing I've learned. And get as much of information as possible. And even sometimes there are trade-offs. It may not be accurate, but still you get 80% of the information. So that is what we have learned from the ground, saying that the technology has to be adaptation. It is not tech today is commodity. Okay, so tech is very easy and you can do anything about the tech. But I think the critical thing is that how that is being adopted on the ground and how it is scaled up on the ground. So that's where. So for us, today I would say all that IoT, more than any of this, we made one simple QR code with 4 threads. Okay, and weaver puts this as an extra weft onto the loom. That is probably the best solution which we have made. Maybe Fiber Sense and all is secondary, because weaver knows weaving. He will do weaving. If you ask him to say that, upload data, upload documents, that's not his work. Okay, so that's when, we found that, we worked with, I think, about 400 weavers in Co-optex. So at that point of time, they wanted, quickly scaled up and all. So we realized that, after many failures, label is something they could easily view. So we had to engineer the entire process around the labels. So coming to, this is what we learned on the ground. The tech has to be made to work for artisans rather than artisans has to work for the tech. Okay, I think that's been the challenge. Yeah, I'll complete in 2 minutes. Now coming to traceability, there is ground needs, I would say, like how Ms. Sujata mentioned about the ground needs versus market wants. Okay, like, you know, if you go H&M or somebody, there is a traceability requirements. So where there is a lot of documentation, I think the most important thing is how do we bridge this gap? Okay, and that's where, you know, innovative solutions, even I think recently environmental footprint is becoming important. I don't think, you know, we know what is the environmental footprint of handmade products. We are working with the ministry. More importantly, I think IIT Delhi also has done very interesting work in assessing what is the carbon footprint on handlooms. Okay, so I think putting this and making systems very simple and easy to use, but more importantly, that has to go to the market, the story has to be told. Okay, I would like to recollect Mr. NKC, the founder of Jaipur Rugs. In Mysore, we were on the same dais. So he was telling, we sell the product for free, but we charge for stories. Okay, I think that's how I believe that handmade has to be promoted by way of telling stories. And today customers have deep purses, they're willing to pay, just that you have to prove this is genuine and tell the story about it. Thank you.
One small thing, Vijay, is this whole thing very costly for the grassroots? Like, what is the cost involved? You can just touch upon it just in a minute.
Per product, it's about 12 rupees, 10 to 12 rupees. But it's also like, you know, you have the entire story stored in the cloud for 3 years so that, you know, you can access around 10 to 12 rupees per product will be there. Yeah.
Thank you. So now coming to Gaurav, so you are in the HCL Foundation, and HCL Foundation has quite a big footprint in this sector. You're working with so many players in this sector. You also work with Kosha directly. So now, for building what we are talking about, we also need a lot of financial and ecosystem support. So how can CSR investments step in to fund and support a foundational traceability infrastructure for rural craft communities?
Thank you, Madhura. Definitely, as a CSR HCL Foundation, and we believe the CSR role is very important at this point of time, where the paradigm is really shifting towards the nation building. And through CSR HCL Foundation, we not only work on the output, we focus on the impact. And that's where, especially when I talk about the craft sector, when we entered almost like 5 years before, and through the help of the technology, which we called My E-Heart, which is a very pretty simple e-commerce platform, but the difference is that the involvement of the middleman is very, very minimal. So the maximum profit goes to the artisan back. That's how we wanted to make sure the value chain should be as rich as possible. We understood that we have to invest in this sector to make sure the work which we are doing, it has some impact. And not only because in terms of the number, but the result can only come if we are there for a substantial period of time. And I'm very glad that with whom HCL Foundation is working, we have a partnership more than 6 years, 7 years. It's a continuation of going on. And that's how the work gets very rich. I was meeting the old partners here also. In fact, the partnership with Kosha also came a couple of years back when we started the work in the traceability. We understood that traceability is going to be very, very important, especially why? Because HCL Tech has a huge customer base, which are overseas customers, which are coming very frequently to India for the business trips, and all the lot of corporate gifting happen. And one thing always comes to the mind, who's overcome, especially the overseas customer, who made this product. And definitely we all know this is made by the artisan and all, but honestly we do not have any evidence to prove that this is made by an artisan or this is made by some cluster in Nagpur or in Amravati and all. That's how we started investing on those prototypes of, I believe that we started with around 8 to 10 clusters in the period of 2022. And once we started seeing those results, that actually the value of the product goes multiply, and the profit started getting to the artisan through that certification, through the kosher certification, we understood that is replicable and scalable. That's where the CSR role become very important, that we can invest on those clusters where we never intervened or where we haven't started our work. Especially now, started with around the 10, now we are, almost like a 20 plus cluster we have entered with this traceability technology. And the second part also very important, which I really wanted to highlight to the audience, the Craftmark certification. That's also we started in the meanwhile, especially a couple of years back, where we understood each and every product with whatever HCL Foundation, wherever we are working, we make sure those are certified to the Craftmark, so that whatever the customer is getting, they should get a 100% value for the product. Similarly, artisan also get the due recognition. And again, through CSR, I am very sure that through different corporate, through CSR, when we show this result, it's a multiplied. Not only those NGOs are getting benefit, they can also amplify to the different corporate, different CSR through the support of the HCL or some other corporate that can be replicable. So that's the point that as a CSR, we have to make sure the investment keeps going. Then only we can see the substantial result. Then we can say the sustainable growth is happening. I'll just take an example of the Barabanki looms with whom we are working since last 5 years. When we started, they were making lungi and gamcha in that cluster. And through the intervention with ICA and HCL Foundation, we started making the stole, the fabric, the sarees and all. And now those stoles are having a kosher mark, and that stole is now going to Davos Economic Forum. It is a huge recognition for those artisans who never thought that their product will go to the Davos Economic Forum. And obviously, HCL Tech is I would say that they are the player who has taken those products. This is just an example. Now we are entering into the cluster of Pochampalli, Kalamkari, wherever the viewers are there. Through HCL Foundation, we are trying to amplify the intervention over there.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you. Thank you for mentioning such a lovely case study. And I think what you said, if we can go on with the investment, these things can happen, which is such a pleasure to hear coming from a CSR person. Because really these kinds of financial supports and ecosystem supports are important for smaller organizations to build these kinds of both physical and digital infrastructures. So now I come to Nandita. Nandita, you work in the open network like ONDC, which is aiming to democratize the whole e-commerce space for artisans. How do you view traceability in that space, considering that it is a reality that small producers are still not equipped, to manage e-commerce, to manage digital markets. There are so many challenges that we are all aware of. So that space itself is trying to make its way into the market for smaller producers and how they handle it. So how do you see traceability within this ecosystem? How does it work?
Well, thank you so much for the question. I think traceability, as of course we all know, is where buyers ask the question that, hey, where has the product really come from? But our question where we look at ONDC is primarily to say that can these artisans and rural entrepreneurs even access simple, affordable e-commerce systems, right? And that's where, the entire, space for ONDC has come in to make it population scale inclusive project, which enables rural entrepreneurs, artisans and weavers to be able to access e-commerce, of course in a simple, affordable, localized way. So, given the sort of problem at hand, initially, in the last 3.5 years, ONDC has also had that learning curve where we said, okay, technology sab kar dega, right? So the idea was, can technology work? Then we had our whole sort of evolution of things, and where we sort of land up now, where we are actually solving many more things than just the onboarding side of it. So in a gist, open network for digital commerce was supposed, has the whole thought of not being restricted to a confined and a closed marketplace, rather than an open network where multiple platforms and service providers are able to participate freely. So you have, on one hand, you have a seller. So apologies for a little bit of the terms here, but I will try and simplify it. So you have technology service providers that provide solution for the seller side. So seller onboarding, sellers training, sellers cataloging, sellers payment on time. Those are, many such platforms on ONDC have come in the last few years from across the nation that give these seller network participant services. On the other hand, you have multiple buyer platforms. So you have, of course, buyer platforms emanating from the likes of course, a population scale, somebody who's fixing crafts, somebody who would like to attract buyers for food, organic products, and so on and so forth, right? Mobility, we can go on. So there are multiple technology service providers for the buyer side. Similarly, many logistics providers. So logistics service providers which do hyperlocal, intercity, hilly areas, things like that. And of course, service providers. When we say service providers, we are mentioning people who give GST services, ICA who gives Craftmark, other entities who give different kind of trust credentials. So what this open network primarily does is that it lets everybody participate on an open platform. So we figured out the technology. Now the next step was that if you're really looking at onboarding smaller sellers and artisans, technology alone will not happen. So how do you look at assisted commerce models? How do you look at the people there along with the artisans who are able to onboard them, who are able to sort of support them when it comes to accepting orders, doing inventory, fulfilling orders, and so on and so forth. Where we started utilizing NGOs. So non-government organizations or on-ground infrastructure supports in warehousing and fulfillment and seller onboarding, branding and things like that. Ecosystem providers like different funders fund for making, say, different technologies, for smaller sellers. Like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation made a technology for just women entrepreneurs, which includes women FPOs, weavers and artisans and so on. So the idea was, okay, fine, we made a technology, now we get all of these ecosystem players. But the next bigger question comes, how do we work on the identity for the weaver, for the small seller, which I think a lot of the panelists have spoken about. So when we say identity, of course, when we say that the product has an identity, but the idea was the producer also has an identity, and what the open network enables is that where is the product coming from? Am I a weaver based out of Kanchipuram? Do I have a cooperative? So what is the artisan cluster that I'm related to? All of these different indicators of the producer, the artisan collective, the location, the craft, these are the different attributes. In fact, if you navigate to one of our buyer platforms, you can actually search for Kanchipuram. You will see a whole bunch of sellers that you can actually call on. You can just directly dial them. So somewhere the weaver's identity and the sellers, the main sort of producer who's creating these products, the idea was to bring that to life. While that was also true, the next question was that, okay, what is then trust for the unbranded India? So working with, on e-commerce space where you don't really get to interact with the seller, you don't get to touch and feel the product, how do you then bring trust indicators on e-commerce, which is a very critical question. So here again, what we tried was that while, and allow me to sort of spread it to the other fruit products also. The idea was the GI product or the ODOP product or the craft mark, wool mark, silk mark. There are other indicators, right? The other indicators could be if I'm an FPO, am I a women entrepreneur? So there were other trust indicators that aspirational district, am I a tribal seller? So there were these other indicators apart from just the product, the buyer would know who am I actually buying from. So it was these different trust indicators that we started capturing. But I think then comes our sort of, the evolution that where we are sitting on right now. We realize that while everything is great and we can get everything there, are these sellers really equipped to operate on e-commerce? So when I get an order, am I actually able to fulfill it on time? Is my secondary and tertiary packaging good enough to actually make my handicraft reach the product, reach the buyer in a single piece? is my primary packaging really talking about the story of my product? Do my labels basically talk about the things that I stand for? Is my pricing good enough, right? Is my pricing actually competitive? I don't know. Because when I go to a stall, I'm probably looking at interacting with 200 stalls, but when I'm navigating on e-commerce, I'm actually looking at another 2,000 products. So that entire on-ground story, which goes much before onboarding actually came. And now we're in a space where, we have partnered with entities like India Post to be able to ship and dispatch the products, to be able to pack it, to be able to deliver. So fulfillment as a service. I know I'm buying, I'm going to get it from the weaver. How do we work with, different packaging companies so NGOs and different, clusters which are actually working with primary and secondary and tertiary packaging for these artisans. How do I work on pricing of these products? You have 3 honeys in the market, all of them are differently priced. So really fundamental questions is where we have now also evolved our role to really understand when you're talking about smaller sellers, rural enterprises and so on, how do you get the right story to the consumer, and how do you get the right trust credentials to the unbranded India? So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Nandita, for summarizing it and for keeping the time as well. I think a few things I would just first like to say that we could just touch the tip of the iceberg probably here with all that we said. And there's so much more that needs to be discussed in depth, but this is not the session for that. So I think some of the key things that we really, I think, can be reiterated are, one is understanding value. What is value here when we are talking about this sector, and accordingly build the whole traceability structure. Second is a very important thing about how technology should adapt to the on-ground grassroots reality and not the other way around. That, I think, is fundamental to how we are innovating things. We definitely do have a very strong ecosystem in this sector that we have always talked about, and the examples that we are hearing here are evidences. So collaborations and partnerships are really the key going forward. This is what I really feel are some of the things that we can really take from here. But with that, I would like to really open up to the audience for questions. And Mr. Paul, you also wanted somebody to intervene from the audience. So if anybody wants to comment, ask questions or anything. Or maybe we can.
Yeah. I mean, how the the wages, fair wages being paid in the silk park. How you have guaranteed that he is getting the fair wages, not he is being less paid, something like that. Can you elaborate?
Initiative, done by the government of Tamil Nadu and government of India. In a single location around 75 acres, with the interventions of the local entrepreneurs, because as you know that Kanjipuram is a cluster which is very famous for the silk, saris and the traditional items. So that government of India has, along with the government of Tamil Nadu, has put up around 75 acres integrated silk park with around 2,000 handlooms in place in a single location. So that, capacity building in a single compound helped to, control the mechanism right from the, production of reeling as well as, weaving, so that the fair wages have been given to the weavers. That such kind of corporatized manufacturing always will help to protect the interests of the weavers, because the weavers are also have the opportunity to come in a very disciplined manner, 9 to 5, because most of these handloom manufacturing happen in the other parts of the Indian clusters is decentralized manner, because many weavers work on a part-time basis, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. So that is also one of the area where the corporate have to come in, help with the CSR fund to augment the capacity production in a very sustainable manner. That will lead to a very disciplined weavers production. As you said, only 1% of the weaver community out of the 35 lakh gets 20,000 and odd. In fact, many of the weavers in that shed gets around 30,000 rupees per month weaving charges, because the products which is made out of that silk park have been sold at a premium. So the park, the manufacturers or the owners of the shed also willing to give more wages to the weavers. So that if we have to really keep the weavers benefit out of this exercise, we need to now make the capacity building in the handloom segment. So we need to have at least clusters. The corporate have to come forward. Now, as you said, Paul sir, you have been involved in the Tanira. Tanira started helping the handloom, workers, and I think Swadeshi started doing it. Many things are there, but of course, the key point is the right time has come to make the handloom industry in a capacity building manner, in a corporatized manner. So we need to have a handloom park with 100 acres and more in many parts of the clusters. So that will help the weavers to get the better fair trade and wages.
I think we can take it afterwards because we are really over time. So I think I'll open up to the questions. So please, yeah, at the back. If you can introduce yourself and then, who you are, and then ask the question.
Thank you very much. I'm Christoph Sprung from Active Sites Consulting. I have really a very specific question. Since you mentioned a price for a digital product passport or traceability about 10, 15 rupees per year or in total per product, is this price depending on the total selling price or is it a fixed price?
Yeah, this is, the traceability is, for example, what we use the label, it's a QR code label, but we get this, some value added threads inserted, we work with another NGO, we make the, so basically it's a handmade label in a sense. So this is a label cost plus the information, like every product, that product specific video will be there. Which mean very simple app like a WhatsApp kind of app is there, where they simply scan the label and they take a 10-second video that could be there. So and whatever traceability other details are there, that will always be there. But it's not a kind of etched in stone. It depends on what is the scope, how much of work is involved. Yeah. So right now it is like for more like a luxury products, roughly around 10 to 12 rupees per product is the cost. But if it's a SKU level, it could be very different.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I'm Anshu from SL Foundation. So I have a question. I want to really ask that, do consumers pay a premium for a verified, sustainable or a traceable craft, or is it expected as a baseline now?
Is your question directed to somebody specific?
No, I think anyone can answer. I think yes.
Yeah, maybe you want
I think it depends on how you're positioning it. I think trust is very important. So when you have a certification, I think it gives trust to who's buying. So definitely it impacts, I think, a lot. But I think, as you rightly said, going forward, because over the last, I think, 2 decades, we've seen so many counterfeit of almost everything, right? Power loom can so easily replicate similar product to handloom that traceability is becoming more and more critical and important. So going forward, I think it'll become more important. I think it's already important, but I think we're still a long way away from where we need to be.
Can I also want to answer? So, for example, we are part of the global fair trade movement. So the kind of buyers we sell to, that's a given, that's the baseline, that you have to have certain kind of traceabilities. You have to follow certain kind of principles when part of the responsible production and consumption. So that's a baseline. Then you actually, if you want to go into much detail, much complicated certification, that's up to the the social enterprise or the business enterprise.
One thing actually we are missing, and because it's very much fragmented, and we also realize the craft education is very important, which is kind of missing. And if you see the NEP, we have to introduce the craft actually as a mainstream. It has to be in the part of the academic. Until and unless it's not a part of the academic, after class 12th or graduation, suddenly you realize, oh, how do I differentiate between handloom, and now everything is available so easily on the e-commerce, online, offline and all. It's very difficult at this stage. So we have to go back and we have to start introducing into the academic system. Then only we'll be able to see the difference in next 20 year or 30 year. That is going to be a very important milestone for us.
Yes, totally. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, I'm Siddhant. I'm an independent designer. My question largely is around the environmental responsibility, because we've largely covered the social responsibility amongst all the speakers. BB Paulji did touch upon the environmental footprint needs to be, measured, but again, carbon footprint measurement is one aspect of it, but from where I see it, whenever I'm going out sourcing in clusters, my major problem is that the dyeing is also happening in the same area where the weaving is happening. And the pre-processing or the post-processing where harsh chemical mordants are being used despite the pigment giving the color, the natural pigment giving the color. So one transition is from synthetic dyes to natural dyes, but the mordanting, which is pre-mordanting or post-mordanting, is still very heavily chemical oriented, and the wastewater treatment is still not in place. So what treatments are we looking at to put in place so that, beyond social responsibility, we also make the ecosystem which these artisans live in to be healthy for them? And also particularly to Vijaya, if Kosha is working on any traceability on that front.
So, can I answer? So, if you see major handloom clusters, there are CETPs. But as far as our experience go,
they hardly get used.
Yeah, they hardly use it because the nature of the work is very decentralized. Because each weaver is dyeing their own. Because we are used to so much of customization as well. So the alternative is to use that technology which is available with the CETP and to scale down the technology. So what basically Kosha is talking about, scaling down certain kind of technology, scaled out down that technology and equip the weaver who are also dyeing with them micro ETPs. And we have done some piloting very successfully in West Bengal in different kinds of micro ETPs. If you're interested, I can share information. So that's, I think, the most useful way to go, because CTPs have not functioned across. We've done that background research and then we arrived at. But again, we need that kind of technology also. So we designed it in a certain way, and then, how do we get more, as there are more regulations which are coming on in terms of dyeing, how do you also then equip the dyer, but the dyeing facility with more innovation, but also, scaling down the technology which is available there.
Thank you.
Just Siddharth, you're a young designer, you have more responsibility. You have to educate your dyer not to use those carcinogenic dyes, neither direct dyes, no naphthalene dyes, no sulfur dyes. Just let them use, if it is VAT or Prussian, if it is silk, let them go for the metal complex dyes. If you insist them, they will do it for you. And you have to teach the things. Because for the cottage, it is very difficult to get the CETP and ETP is very difficult. Even IIT Delhi also, when I was in the ministry, I tried to do it a smaller one, but it never works. It's the only thing to make them aware, both the dyer as well as the consumer, and as a designer, you have more responsibility for that. And don't go for very dark shades. Dark shades take lots of color, lot of energy, lot of dyes, lot of chemicals. So those things you have to take a little bit, And of course, if you take those spurious dyes, which are locally made, many, there are many, that will give you the direct dyes and other dyes. If you take the standard branded dyes, that is all not the harmful one. Yeah, that you have to follow that.
Strategy.
So I think anything other than craft, better to centralize it and organize it with proper accountability, like how Tirupur Exporters Association has done it. I think dyeing has to fall in. Being said that, when you say handmade, it's not just the weaving part, like you said, natural dyes. So we are actually working on photonics-based identification of natural dyes. We are in the early stage right now. So we're making a portable instrument again, what similarly we made. So we've started with indigo and madder, then maybe slowly we'll move into others. So that, when you say, sorry? Yeah, yes. Yeah, agree. I mean, there are challenges. So we are now looking at, in fact, some of where we operate out of is place called Center for Cellular and Molecular Platforms. A lot of innovation happens there. So there, one of another startup, they have done microbe-based natural dyes. Means instead of making it from plant, they are deriving from microbes. They've come out with one blue color recently. So slowly, I think with a lot of innovation, I'm sure many of this can be addressed. Because microbes, when you do it, there's a lot more engineering, genetic engineering, bioengineering can be done around how it attaches and all of that. So I feel that as a direction, somewhere it is starting. Maybe, yeah, it's too early right now to say as a solution.
I think, what Gaurav said, that is about also education. Like you need consumer education, you also need that constant education with the artisans also. Because at one point of time, everyone used to use azo-based dyes. Then, you did that whole, education, awareness that, the dyes are harmful, and then you will not find, harmful dyes now in many parts of the country unless something comes into the supply chain. So it is also constantly how do we upgrade the producers you work with.
Right. Sir.
Good evening, my name is Pankaj, and being in the sector for last 25-30 years working with the artisans, so very happy to see the question of traceability coming up, but I would like to take this up to the next level, and the next level is the biggest challenge that Indian handicraft industry faces from the European market in the name of AMPCO. It says that you cannot use words like fair trade, you cannot use words like sustainable, you cannot use words like eco-friendly unless they are certified by a third-party verifier. Now, third-party verifier, apologize to use the name, would be someone like SGS. And SGS is going to charge a heavy amount. Who's going to bear that? What are we going to do about this? Despite the talk of traceability to the artisan, I think the Indian handicraft industry has moved a shade ahead now. Traceability is still manageable, but how are we going to manage the challenge of AMPCO, which is going to be there from September 27, 2006. So that's another aspect that we should be careful, we should be watching ahead, and all the players sitting on the dais, and you guys have your responsibility because each artisan is looking up to you. You are the solutions for them. So please keep the market in mind and evolve as the market is evolving. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for making this point. Anybody want to comment from the panel? If not, that is fine, because I think there's a lot to think about it, and it's a negotiation issue in a. Yeah, lobbying issue. When I say negotiation, I mean the lobbying issue and the advocacy issue from the Indian government. That is, I think that's the way to go, because they cannot teach us sustainability really. We are the most sustainable lifestyle-based country that somebody can look out to, but we have not really leveraged that in any way till now. So yes, thank you for making that point. So, Minu, with that, do we close this session? If there are, there is one more. Okay, so the last question from the back, and then we would close.
Hello. This is Rashti Soni, and I work with NABARD Consultancy. So presently we are studying on the handlooms and handicraft sector. So here I have heard a lot of things about the traceability, sustainability, storytelling. I just want to get one of the clues about that. as you have seen all the artisans and weavers, and we have obviously studied, or we had a survey with Jaipur Rugs also on the ground level. We had connected with ONDC. So it's great to know about the fiber sense, because we had one of the gaps during the study, customer unawareness. We do study about the weavers, we do study about the raw fishing to exporting and all, but there lacks the consumer unawareness about the credibility and the originality of the handloom and handicrafts. So for studying and for the development of artisans and weavers, I just had a question that should we focus moreover towards the sectoral development or into the cluster development? We had a survey, we had study, we had a survey of more than 400 artisans. So we have find out the gaps like infrastructure gap, digital traceability, and unawareness about the digital platforms and government schemes. So in which sector we should go forward? Into the cluster development or into the sector?
Mr. Paul or Sujata, would you like to take the question? I think you're fit to answer this.
So, you see, we cannot leave one and take another one. You see, it is hand in hand. And there are all department, all government nowadays got their websites. There are chopals. If somebody says, I don't know, it is his fault. He has to know, you know. And there are different offices, either for handloom or handicrafts. In all the states, all the districts, all the state capital, there were the offices. There is regular campaigning is being held. And it is not in just now, it is being going on for the years together. The training programs, the awareness programs on the market. Of course, I do admit there is a less awareness programs among the consumers. They don't know what is handloom mark. They don't know what is old mark. They don't know what is GI. So those things, the artisans, they know. You know, the manufacturers, they know, but the consumer ultimately they don't know. So unless they know, they aren't going to give the price for that. So that is more important. Now the government is taking on that way also. Next 5 years plan, budget plan is going on. Now they have included all those things. More customers have to be brought into the fold of this particular program. More awareness program have to be done for them.
So should we focus on sector development or cluster development for the development of artisans?
So let me take that.
All is a cluster. What is cluster? Cluster is the artisans. So once you develop the cluster, artisans development is coming all the way, no?
I think you can, at length you can discuss this after the session since we are at the end of time.
Sure.
But I just want to say that the cluster development is a strategy. The sector is the sector as a whole. And when you're talking about the sector, cluster development is one part. So I think it's more like an approach rather than either or, but let's take this conversation after the
Thank you so
session.
much, sir.
Yeah, it is an integrated one, no?
It is integrated, but I had a different type of question. Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you to all our panelists for such an insightful and engaging discussion. Thank you so much. To conclude today's session, I would like to call on the stage Ms. Minu Chopra, Executive Director, ICA, for Thanksgiving and Memento distribution. Thank you, ma'am.